Hello, I'm Davide Mengoli, and today I'm in the beautiful town of Nardò. We're in what I believe probably one of the most beautiful squares, definitely in Salento, but probably I've traveled around the world, and sometimes I've actually identified this particular square called Piazza Salandra as one of the most picturesque squares. But today we're not talking about the town of Nardò. Today I want to cover a particular question. We did say at the beginning of the week that we were going to start a Q&A answering questions, and the first questions that I've had came from a couple that had troubles in buying a property, which they then later find out that unfortunately some of the areas of the property didn't have planning permission, and that caused quite a lot of problems afterwards in different areas. And so the question was, how do we make sure that the entire property doesn't have anything which in Italian is called abusivismo? So how do you make sure? Because back in the 1970s and back in the 1980s, people were just building, they had a house and they just added a part of it or created a little extension without worrying too much about getting planning permission. So the question is, how do you make sure? I mean, you would think that when you're buying a property, everything it's absolutely fine. Well, you see, it doesn't really work like that. And sometimes if you're not getting a mortgage through a bank, then you don't even have the benefit of the engineer from the bank that goes and inspects your property to make sure that everything reflects the plan. Other things to worry about sometimes is that the plan doesn't necessarily mean that everything is actually being registered. You see, in Italy we have the catastri or catasto. So what happens is that when people build something, they deposit the drawings with the catasto. But what a lot of people don't know is that the fact that they've deposited the drawings with the catasto doesn't necessarily mean that the borough has approved the new planning. So you may end up something that on the plans looks exactly and reflects the work or the drawings that you actually have, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's been registered. So it's something really, really important, and that's really one of the most important questions that we come across, and also it's been one of the major issues. Oh, this square is beautiful, isn't it? I mean, that's just like, I get so distracted by the beauty of the square. And it is not just one of the main questions, but it's also one of the main concerns and one of the main things that has been popping up over the years. And so how do you make sure? I've just arrived at the local bar here, and magically I've got a coffee waiting for me in this beautiful setting in the background. Oh, magic. You wonder why everybody wants to come to Italy. There must be, I don't know, it doesn't need saying really why everybody wants to be here. So, going back to what we were saying, how do you make sure? So we said that the fact that you have the drawings, and some people may show you drawings that go back 10, 20, 30 years ago, and they say, look, everything, it's been registered with a catasto. If you were in England, it would be with a planning officer. But, like I was saying earlier, the fact that it's been registered with a catasto doesn't necessarily mean that the local borough approved those drawings. So that's really one of the most important things that people need to make sure when they're buying a property, because when it comes to the renovation, then you're really going to have some major issues if some parts of the building were not registered, and the cost sometimes to register that part of the building, even a small amount, it's extremely high. And sometimes it's not even the cost. Sometimes you can't keep it, so you will have to demolish that part of the building. So how do you make sure? The question's still the same, and I know that I keep repeating the question. Well, you need people that know where to look. So the job of a geometra, which you either pay for it or the agency. Some people think, well, but the local estate agent that I bought the property, they should have known if everything is legal. Well, I'm sorry, that's not the case. I would like to say that that is the case. unfortunately, a lot of the agencies, they're very, very keen to take instructions on and to sell properties. Now, obviously, they all do a good job, and I'm not going to say or talk bad about agencies. Oh, magic, now we have the bells playing in the background. 7:15, yes. So you would think it's the responsibility of the agency. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. It is the responsibility of the agency, but a lot of them, sometimes they just go by what the papers say, they sell them, and then the problem is with somebody who buys the property. And if you're a local person, you may find a way of navigating the system and then probably get the planning or get everything approved. But if you're not a local, and on top of that you add the fact that you don't speak the language, then all you do have, it's huge bills to pick up with architects and other figures that appear on the scene that they want to sort everything out for you, and very large bills to pay in order to then perhaps square up a small area that wasn't bonified. So to bonify 10 square meters can cost you up to 6, 7, 8,000 euros. That's if you're able to do that. And that will do one major thing, which is what I try to avoid with Salento with love. I mean, I think probably it's my main aim. It's to make people fall in love with Salento. And the amount of horror stories that unfortunately I've heard over the years has motivated me to put together the team of people and the company that we have out here to avoid you losing love and passion for something that you thought that it was beautiful. Salento, it's amazing, just like a lot of other parts of the world are. But if you don't know what you're doing and you think you can navigate the system alone, well, you may have to think your plan again. I read a quote from a very, very interesting, amazing guy, does a fantastic job, Damien McFarrell, which I'm going to tag in this video, which a good way to fail is not to plan. And it's very true. A lot of people that buy properties abroad, and sometimes in Italy, I would like to think that they're a little bit like pioneers, like conquerors. They get out here and they really believe that all the estate agents are bad. They don't need a property finder. They don't need anybody. They've read all the blogs and they've read all these bad things that everybody's after, taking their money, and they can do this alone. They can do that thing alone. They can do everything alone. Well, let me tell you, Rambo did everything alone and he survived. Remember Rambo? I mean, that tells you something about my age, but there was a scene, it was a fantastic film, but probably not for everybody. First Blood, that when he jumps out of a cliff and rips half of his chest out of his ribs, and he stitches it up, because obviously there were not doctors there and he had to do it himself. Do it yourself, DIY. It worked, but he knew what he was doing. I'm sure Rambo, as a good American soldier, he probably had a good knowledge about medicine and what to do. In those circumstances, he had to do it. He didn't have a choice. But sometimes, does it happen to you that you have symptoms about something, and rather than going to the doctor, you Google it, and you get all the answers, and you self-diagnose yourself, and you think you know exactly what to do? But does it happen to you that you have a little bit of a doubt in your mind? So what do? You may have found the right answers. You may be right, but you will still go to your doctor. You will still go to your GP, to your general practitioner, to your family doctor, and you will still want to make sure that if he subscribes a course of antibiotics comes from him and it doesn't come from a Google search. So it's very important to understand these points, because a lot of people are convinced that the answers that they get through bloggers and groups and expats, and they are really the right answers. And I like to say that, yes, in a lot of the cases are the right answers, but a lot of these people, they've done a trial and error. And you see, DIY, it's a fantastic practice. A lot of people love DIY, but DIY, it's all right if you're painting the fence of your garden, if you're painting your bedroom, if you're fixing your table. But when you are buying a property and you are spending tens or hundreds of thousands do you really want to risk? Do you really want to go with your gut instinct? Do you really want to follow what somebody's actually said on a group or on a blog? Well, perhaps the difference between that and engaging the services of somebody that can give you the right answers and guide you and navigate you through a system that you don't know, it could be vital for two reasons. And the two reasons are, first of all, you save time, and time is money. So that would be the first reason. The second reason, which is the most important reason for me personally, that's why we are called Salento with Love. We want you to stay in love with Salento. And if you go and enter into a situation that starts causing you stress, the first thing you lose, it's love. And I've heard too many stories of people losing love. So I don't want people to lose love. I want people to increase their passion for this land, which is so unique. It's got so much to offer. So the first thing that we've answered today, how do I make sure that the planning on this property, it's according to what is being registered with the Catasto and also with the borough? Well, you need a technical person to do that, to make sure that that is the case. So before you get to the completion in front of a notary and you state that you are buying it in the current state, that check has been done and signed by a technician, and so you can then move forward. That would be my first tip today for you before you buy a property, not just in Salento, but anywhere in Italy. If you have enjoyed what I've actually been telling you about, perhaps it's a good idea to subscribe. We will continue with other Q&As, and I'll love more questions. Perhaps in the comments box, you can ask me questions, and it would be nice next week to answer some more questions. Or you can simply put a like. That means that at least you're watching us and you're enjoying this beautiful background, which I'm gonna do a 360 and give it to you one last time with this amazing light at 7 o'clock in the evening in the beautiful square of Piazza Salandra in Nardò.